don't know. I don't think so. Maybe. No, I did not. What is this?
Okay. Now, about a year ago, I was selling, Maxon was making a TS808 Apex model with the Tamura mod.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting is most people don't know, in America anyway, some people do, but most people don't know who SUSUMU Tamura was or is.
I don't.
Okay. He's the actual inventor of the TS808 circuit. He's the engineer who designed and invented this little box that we all love so much. Okay?
The Tube Screamer.
The Tube Screamer, the world famous Tube Screamer. And at the time, and this is where a lot of people get confused, Maxon was the original pedal builder of those units.
Okay.
Okay? And Ibanez just cut a deal with them to build those units.
Can you want me to hold that stuff? Or?
Yeah, let me sit right there. So, years later, Ibanez kind of split off from Maxon, started handling their own stuff,
Okay.
and made their own versions of their own pedals, so to speak, okay, and continued to market under the Ibanez brand name. Very cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow, that's a beauty.
And the
I
guys,
can hear the tone.
the guys who are familiar with these pedals,
yeah,
they know that not all of these pedals sound exactly alike.
Yeah.
There are certain ones that absolutely sounded awesome, and the rest of them were pretty darn good, and then there were a few that were like, no big deal.
Really?
It just happens. Electronics are not an exact science, and especially when you talk about IC chips, because of the way they're made.
That's very cool.
Well, after nearly 40 years, there are a lot of people who had come to a consensus, especially through involvement in guitar shows and NAMM shows and things like that. They were like, man, I've got a 1980 blah, 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 and it sounds phenomenal.
Okay.
It's the stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And then they would, of course, people are like, well, you're going to have to prove that to me. So they would get together, they would have like listening parties, these things. And sure enough, there were definite makes and models of these pedals that absolutely sounded
Completely different.
$1 million.
Yeah, okay.
They were just phenomenal. So somebody had the bright idea, once SUSUMU Tamura kind of resurfaced, and they said, Mr. Tamura, why exactly do some of these sound so great and some of these just, not so much?
Okay.
And he said, well, I don't know, but if you want to send them to me, I will test them. So these guys took a pretty big risk. They actually sent him hundreds of pedals over a period of time and had him test them. And he discovered that each one of these so-called awesome sounding versions had one specific IC chip with a specific batch number on it.
Oh, okay.
Now, chips at that time period were made in batches of a couple of million at a time, 10 million at a time. So there were quite a few. He began to source some of these vintage chips. He bought an untold number. It's probably not that many. I'd be surprised if it was 2,000 or 3,000, to be honest. 2,000 to 5,000 maybe, who knows. And he's not telling either. So they developed this.
Reissuing it.
They're reissuing it as the one we all know in America, the Ibanez Tube Screamer TS808, the one we all want. Okay?
Really?
Yeah. And there it is.
What is that
with
baby?
The Tamura
What does that
line.
baby run?
She's about $399.
Wow.
But that sounds exactly like you want a Tube Screamer to sound.
Yeah.
And I've played both the Maxon Apex version, which is the same mod, sounds great, I have no complaints with those, but Maxon went belly up, during the pandemic. So now they're gone. And I was never complaining about the Maxon, but the Maxon is just a straight square box, nothing, it doesn't have this cool shape. And
Yeah.
It doesn't have all the
I love the
Ibanez,
color on it too, man. It's
the
very cool.
the Ibanez mystique.
Ibanez mystique. Never gonna let it go.
Not. Well, When I was a kid, there was a very famous ad that came out from Gibson where they
Yeah, you showed it to me. You can find it. Look it up. It's there. It's on the internet. You can find it.
Funny. But anyway, we're carrying these now, and they're selling like hotcakes, and they're extremely limited. Extremely limited. Don't wait on these. The first 100 sold out within hours.
Really?
Yeah, really. And I ordered these back in July of last year, and I didn't get the first one until just before Christmas.
How many guys? How many babies you got?
Right now, I got one.